Joining us now, Speaker of the House of Delegates of the Supermajority, our good friend, and we've had him on our show many, many times, Speaker Bill Howell. Speaker, good to have you with us, man.
Oh, it's great to be with you, John. I haven't talked to you in a little while.
I know you've been so busy, and now we find out you're retiring. And that, look, it was a shock to some. A lot of people thought you were going to run for election, maybe go one more term. So let's just get right to that. What is it did you just get up one day and say, you know what? I had enough, or had you planned this out for some time?
No, my wife and I have been talking about it for quite some time, and we prayed about it. We kept it to ourselves pretty much, but felt it was the right decision. My goodness, John, I will have served 30 years come January in the House of Delegates, and 15 of those years as Speaker, and it's really been a great run. It's been truly the greatest professional honor of my life. And what a wonderful opportunity both Ceci and I and our family have had to be able to serve. So it was a tough decision, but and since I've made it, I feel very good about it. So we're leaving the House in good hands. Kirk's going to do a marvelous job as Speaker, and he's got a good team around him, and we're going to continue to hopefully work with a Republican governor and get some good things done in the General Assembly.
Okay, so let's talk about just a little walk down memory lane, because a lot of our listeners really don't know all of the history between Speaker Bill Howell, how he got into office. So everybody knows Speaker Howell replaced Van Wilkins, who was involved in a scandal. He had to resign. And when you took over, you had your majority was what? 1 seat, 2 seats, right?
We were about 53, I think.
53. So you're basically a 3-seat majority, or 6, right? 53, 47. You turn that over time, Mr. Speaker, you turn that 53 seats coming in on a scandal, just so everybody knows. So you had to kind of pick up those pieces, and you turn that 53 into a 66, 67 seat supermajority over the 15 years that you were able to serve as Speaker, 7 terms reelected to the House of Delegates. What was the biggest breakthrough, Mr. Speaker, you had in getting from 53 tenuous majority to a supermajority 67?
Well, we had a couple of really strong years where we would pick up 8 or 10 people, and the early part of it, we have a very effective campaign committee. We have good people working with us, and really we have the issues on our side, we just worked hard. People talk about redistricting. Gee whiz, we've got 17 seats that Hillary won in the last thing. I think there's 12 or 14 out there that Mark Warner won when he ran against Ed Gillespie. But we have, I think, superior candidates. They work hard. As you know, we work all year round, year after year, and don't just wait till the last couple of months in the election cycle, and it's paid dividends.
Well, there's no question. You can't argue with the success that you all have had. In the 3 decades, Mr. Speaker, that you've served in the House of Delegates, both just as a House member in leadership and as Speaker, what is your proudest moment?
Being elected a Speaker, I think. But, John, there's been a lot of legislative accomplishments that I've worked on and worked with, and I love to tell people that I've never had an original idea in my life, but I get great ideas from friends and constituents. And we've been able to put a lot of them into the law. But I really think the greatest thing I've done, particularly as Speaker, or the greatest thing that I've seen happen, is the unity within our Republican caucus in the House. We are one for all and all for one, and it's a good, tight, close group. We don't waver. We really have been the firewall during these times of Democratic governors and the Senate, flipping back and forth. I remember 2 years ago we did a little quick study and found where the Republican House had blocked over $30 billion in tax increases, proposed tax increases, over a period of 10 years. And it's that unity that we have where we're working together. We couldn't do that if we had people peeling off all the time. So I think that's probably the thing I'm most proud of.
Well, I mean, I've been covering you since 2011, and I can't remember a single time where you didn't have 95% of your members basically singing out of the same hymnal. So, and it's like whenever you have this type of a caucus and that many people, it's very tough to get the type of unity that you've been able to have in anything. And you've been able to do that very consistently. And there's very little dissension. So, I mean, you go back, you remember, I guess, 2013 when we were battling the Medicaid expansion, and you had 3 Republican senators that had split with, at the time, the majority leader, and how that turned out, and the government was going to get shut down. The House never had that. I mean, you think about it. With all those members, you never had. I mean, the dissenting people would be maybe 3, if at the max. That's almost unheard of, isn't it?
Well, it shows that we're most of us are of a like mind. You have to vote your district, and if you've got a more moderate district, you can't always walk in lockstep. We don't ask people to walk in lockstep. Again, it's just a good feeling of unity, and I was so pleased to see it when we had the elections for the speaker designee and other caucus officers. That same spirit of unity, that same spirit of we're all in this together, and I think that's wonderful.
Well, even you look at that, I mean, we had a former House of Delegates member, Chris Saxman, on the day after you announced your retirement, and he spent 15 minutes telling me that there was going to be this battle between Kirk Cox and Terry Kilgore, and it was going to depend on how many people got reelected, and some seats were at risk, and Terry had all the rural people, and it was going to drag on through next January. That was like on a Tuesday. Wednesday, it was all done. So
yeah, I know. That was great. That was good.
That was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And I told Saxman, okay, you were a little off on that one. Let's get to this 2017 general session. In your mind, Mr. Speaker, what are the top 2 or 3 accomplishments that you all got done?
Well, it was a short session, and I think we accomplished a lot in the short session. I think the most important thing we did was close the $1.2 billion shortfall and still be able to give state employees, state police, sheriff deputies, teachers, much-deserved pay raise. And we gave more money back to local schools for education with no strings attached, and we invested money into our public colleges and universities. We invested in the core functions of government without having to raise taxes or fees. In fact, we cut all of the proposed fees from Governor McAuliffe's proposed amendments. It's really important to remember, John, that if you go back 10 years and adjusting for inflation and population growth, our general fund is 5% lower today than it was 10 years ago. That's amazing. But again, I think that shows the resolve of the Republican caucus in the House and how we've been able to accomplish things without having to keep expanding government. And we did some pretty exciting things this year in education. I love Dickie Bell's virtual school bill. We passed Rob Bell's charter school amendment. That's very important. David L. Rock had a parental school savings account. Now, I'm not sure how they're going to do with the governor's veto pen, but again, that just speaks volumes for why we need a strong Republican governor next year.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a minute. To replace your seat, will there be a primary or something? How does that work?
Well, it just depends on who wants to run for it. Right now, there's 1 or 2 people that are kind of nosing around, and we'll see what happens. And my district's become pretty competitive, and so we've got to find the best candidate we can.
All right, so we'll wait on that. Governor McAuliffe, who's going to be with us on Thursday, has already threatened to veto. He's either threatened or has vetoed some pretty good legislation that you've sent up. Once again, the Tebow bill by Rob Bell. Look, until you get a Republican governor, this isn't ever going to get signed, right? That's just the bottom line.
And he's the governor talks a lot. I think he thinks this is his major legacy, and it probably is going to be his only legacy. He's probably going to have vetoed more bills than any other governor. But that doesn't really say a whole lot about the governor. It shows that he's not working with the legislature. It shows that he's vetoing things just to say I vetoed him. His statement before the session. I mean, we went into this session with him saying, kind of Clint Eastwood, like, make my day. I'm dying to veto some of your bills. That's not the way to create collaboration and good working facility together. And I'm truly disappointed in that. But Every governor's different, but he has vetoed some good bills, and I suspect there's going to be more.
Okay, so also, let me just help me understand why he would veto the Delegate Campbell bill, lowering the age for concealed carry for military members from 21 to 18. If you're 18, you can serve in the military. You can carry an AK-47 or whatever you have, a bazooka, right? You can be driving a tank. You can be shooting missiles, anti-aircraft guns. Your life is at risk. You're shooting people and getting shot at. Yet you come back to the United States and you can't have a concealed carry permit until you're 21 and you're serving in the military. Tell me how that makes any sense at all.
Well, of course it doesn't. It's just ridiculous. And it shows, I think this governor is really beholden to the left-wing liberal foundation pieces. And one of them, of course, is gun control or removal of guns. And they don't like anything that has to do with in any way expanding gun rights and Second Amendment rights. And I think McAuliffe just reflexively bows to that temple.
So, and again, the problem is you probably have the votes in the House to override that in your veto session. And I guess, is that May? When is that, April?
April 5th.
April 5th. So, but, you get the state Senate. They're not going to get 2/3. So that's dead. Senator Obenshain has a bill that says you have to do an investigation if there's more voters than people in a precinct. I mean, this is just common sense stuff. You go to a precinct, there's 1,000 people in the precinct, and 1,200 people vote, right?
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't you want to do it? Who would not say, I'd like to find out how 200 people voted in the precinct that are not on the rolls?
Governor McAuliffe would. And it makes absolutely no sense. Again, he's just bowing down. The Democrats always contend that there's no such thing as voter fraud, and that we don't have to worry about too many people voting in a precinct because there's no voter fraud. And to say otherwise is heresy to them. And I think Governor McAuliffe is just echoing that.
And he comes on my show and he says that he's a gun owner and all his kids own guns and he hunts all the time and he's pro Second Amendment. And then you see things like this and, vetoing that. But, I mean, how you could veto a bill that says if more people cast a ballot in a precinct than are registered, I mean, anybody on both sides of the aisle, you would want to know why, right? That's crazy.
It makes no sense, John. I would agree.
And it's not even partisan. It's just common sense. Makes no sense. I got him on my show on Thursday. I'm going to ask him those two questions.
Good question.
They don't make any sense to me at all. Now, you've been a very big backer of Ed Gillespie for governor. Why?
I've known Ed for a long time, been very impressed with him, and encouraged him to run for the U.S. Senate, which a lot of people, including some prominent radio hosts, thought he had absolutely no chance in winning against Mark Warner. And, of course, we all remember how close it came. I mean, less than, 11,000 votes, 12,000 votes statewide.
Yes.
Ed's
I was, by the way,
Ed's the right guy for the job.
Right.
He's working hard already. He's got good, solid conservative principles. A lot of people forget that Ed helped write the contract with America with Newt Gingrich. He led the Republican National Committee the last time the Republicans controlled the White House, Congress, and the president. He worked to put Justice Alito on the Supreme Court. I mean, this is a guy that spent his entire career fighting for conservative principles. And but at the same time, he's almost sort of a policy wonk. He's very involved in policy. What can we do to make Virginia a better Commonwealth? And he understands the focus is on the economy. He's not a show horse. He's just a hard-working workhorse. He's the right guy for the right job, for that job.
All right, so let's get to November, and let's assume Ed Gillespie is the nominee. Right now, we've got him as a prohibitive favorite. Doesn't matter who you're for. I'm just telling it like it is. I've got him as the 3-5 favorite, unless, to me, something dramatic happens. He's likely right now to be the nominee. So you get to November, and you look at Virginia. I was the Trump chairman, as you know, of Virginia in this past cycle. We lost the state by 5%, got beat by over 200,000 votes. We lost 3 cities in Northern Virginia, Alexandria, Fairfax, and Arlington, by a combined 312,000 votes. That's a massive number. I had Ben Tribbett on my show, longtime Democratic consultant, the other day, Mr. Speaker, who said, if you just follow historical trend, the least swing that's ever happened between a new president gets elected and then the governor's election happens the next year in Virginia, the least swing the other way in history has been 13%. That's been the least. The highest has been like 25. The average is like 18, but let's go with the least. So Clinton won by 5. The numbers show historically you get the minimum swing you get towards the other party, which would be the Democrats, is 13%. That puts, historically, you would say Gillespie starts out behind 18% with all the momentum swinging the other way. Whether it's Gillespie, Wagner, Riggleman, whomever, how does a Republican overcome that historical trend and what's going on right now? How could Ed win Virginia, regardless of who the other nominee is, whether it's Tom or
I don't think it's
Ruff?
regardless of who the other nominee is, first of all. And when you have these trends, I mean, look at the other trend that was so emphatic that whoever won the White House, the other party would win the governor's election. And, of course, that didn't happen last time we had a governor's election. So these trends are interesting, but I think you got to look at the candidates. I think that the Democrat candidate, whether it's Northam or Perriello, and I'm thinking more and more it might be Perriello, but
Me too.
Perriello is going to pull Northam so far to the left, and Perriello is so far to the left, he's just out of step with the regular common Virginian. And I think that Ed has shown that he can do well in Northern Virginia. He carried Loudon against Mark Warner. You remember was the most popular elected official in Virginia when he ran 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, or 3 years ago, whenever it was, and I think that Ed did well in Loudon. He won Loudon County. Did well in Fairfax. He won Chesapeake. He won Virginia Beach. He can win. He's the best quality Ed has besides his policy interest is the fact that he's a happy warrior. I call him the happy warrior, like Hubert Humphrey. I'm not sure he likes that, but he's always positive. You never see him frowning. You never see him saying bad things about different people. He's always positive, and I think the people react strongly to that. I just think a guy that's going to come and say, I can do this, this, and this for the Commonwealth, I've got this experience, is going to win, and I think it's going to be Ed.
I love that analogy. He is like Humphrey. You're right. Those of us a little bit older, Bill, like you and me, remember Hubert Humphrey ran for president in 1960, 1964, and then, of course, got the nomination in Chicago in 68 and ran for president, and that was his nickname. He was a happy warrior, and he was like Ed. He was a Democrat. He was a policy wonk, but he was always in a good mood, always very positive. I only met him one time. I was a small child in 68. My father introduced me to him at a union rally, and he was just an upbeat, happy guy. So I like that. It's a second coming of Hubert Humphrey.
Well, not politically, but just
personality-wise.
In his persona.
Yeah.
He's just a positive guy. I've never seen Ed not be positive about something, whether it's talking about changes he wants to bring to Virginia, whether it's talking about how he's going to help people in Virginia. He's always got positive ideas, and I think the people crave that. I think they're looking for that, especially in a place like Northern Virginia, where they're so focused on politics and what's happening. I think they're looking for somebody who's got solutions, somebody who's got some suggestions and ideas, and I think that's clearly Ed Gillespie. As
an Ed Gillespie backer, Speaker Howell, would you rather face Tom Perriello or Lieutenant Governor Ralph Northam?
Well, they both have strong points and they both have weak points. I think Ed's going to be superior to either one of them. I think that, and again, I think the thing about Perriello being in the race is he's pulling Northam even further to the left. I don't think Virginia is where either Perriello or Northam will be, and I think they're going to be looking for a common sense, middle of the road kind of guy that's going to have solutions and get the economy growing in Virginia again and do things that need to be done, and that's Ed Gillespie.
All right, Speaker Bill Howell predicting Ed Gillespie wins in November and is our next governor. I think he's got an uphill battle, but as you say, if Trump proved anything, you can go counter trend. If you were ever going to go counter trend, now's the time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we're out of time. I want to thank Speaker Bill Howell for being with us. Speaker, it's always an honor to have you on. Appreciate all you've done, your 3 decades of service to the Commonwealth, your tremendous run as Speaker of the House. We got to have you back now often, because I know come December, I'm not going to be able to find you again.
Oh, yeah, you will. I'll be around.
All right.
Look forward to it, John.
Speaker
Thanks a
Bill
lot.
Howell, thank you so much.
See you. Bye.
Good guy. This is the John Fredericks Show Radio Network. We'll be right back.